Federal court has ruled a convicted scammer who claimed to be an Irish heiress and who is accused of stealing tens of thousands of dollars from several victims should be extradited to the United Kingdom. Accusers say Marianne Smith has also fashioned herself as a witch, a psychic, and a friend to Hollywood stars. She's been in Penobscot County Jail waiting to learn if she will be extradited. She faces allegations that she stole more than $170,000 from victims in Northern Ireland. A U.S. magistrate judge ruled today that there is sufficient evidence to certify Smith's extradition to the UK to face charges.